The Auditor-General provides assurance to Parliament on the accountability and performance of the Victorian public sector. The Auditor-General conducts financial audits and performance audits and reports on the results of these audits to Parliament. On the 5th of February 2014, the Auditor-General tabled his Performance Audit Report, Oversight and Accountability of Committees of Management. Crown land reserves are areas of public land that are set aside for the benefit and enjoyment of Victorians. They range from coastal areas and bushland to community halls, sporting grounds and parks and gardens. Around 1,500 of these reserves are managed by nearly 1,200 community-based committees of management, made up of around 8,000 volunteers. These reserves include some high-profile locations, such as coastal reserves, as well as reserves that are important to local communities. Responsibility for managing reserves is delegated to committees by the Department of Environment and Primary Industries, or DEPI. Committees of management provide substantial social value and economic benefit to Victoria. Collectively, committee members provide around 840,000 hours of voluntary labour a year, worth up to $32 million. A number of reviews over the past 20 years have looked at the oversight and support provided to committees of management. These have identified several recurring issues, such as insufficient support for committees and concerns about their ongoing viability. The objective of the audit was to determine whether the governance and support that DEPI provides to committees of management enables them to effectively and efficiently manage Crown land reserves. To do this, we examined whether DEPI effectively establishes committees and associated governance arrangements, provides the guidance and support that committees need to carry out their responsibilities and obligations, and monitors the effectiveness of committees in meeting their responsibilities and ensures transparency and accountability in their operations, in accordance with the level of risk. On behalf of the Minister for Environment and Climate Change, DEPI has overall responsibility for most of Victoria's public land. The Minister has several legislative powers relating to committees, some of which are delegated to DEPI. Among other powers, the Minister can establish committees and appoint members, remove members and revoke committees. He can also direct committees to spend their revenue in a particular way. Committees must manage, improve, maintain and control their reserve for the purpose for which the land was set aside. They can enter into contracts, leases and licenses, employ people to assist in managing the land, and spend revenue to maintain or improve the reserve. The audit found significant weaknesses in the governance, oversight and support that DEPI provides to committees of management. DEPI has classified committees into 4 groups based on their financial risk, but has not considered social and environmental risk, and has not applied consistent and tailored governance arrangements across the 4 groups. DEPI has not taken a strategic approach to providing support and guidance to committees. It has not targeted support and oversight to committees who manage higher risk reserves, nor to areas where committees require further guidance. DEPI has not effectively used the information that it collects about committees, and there have been gaps in DEPI's internal coordination and communication about committees. These flaws have reduced the effectiveness of DEPI's support and have impacted on committees' ability to manage reserves effectively. We also found that DEPI has not taken adequate steps to be sure that committees are sustainable into the future. As many of the issues were not new, this audit focused on obtaining the Department's agreement on the issues and identifying solutions to address them. In an environment of limited resources, DEPI was initially reluctant to take action to address the issues, even though it acknowledged them at an early stage. However, during the course of the audit, DEPI committed to a number of improvement initiatives and established a project team which has begun to implement these actions. If fully implemented, DEPI's governance, support and oversight of committees will substantially improve. Almost 1,200 committees of management across Victoria manage reserves with varying levels of financial, social and environmental risks. To oversee these committees effectively, a risk-based and tailored approach is needed, based on appropriate categorisation. While DEPI developed a categorisation framework in 2012, the framework is insufficient. The audit found that, while DEPI appoints members to some higher risk committees based on an assessment of their skills, this is not always the case. Where it does use a skills-based appointment process, DEPI's procedures are not consistent and are not sufficiently robust or transparent. DEPI conducts adequate probity checks of committee members, but does not tailor checks according to risk. And DEPI does not ensure that all high-risk committees have adequate internal governance processes. The audit made 3 recommendations aimed at addressing these weaknesses in DEPI's governance of committees. DEPI has commenced actions that will fully address all 3 recommendations. DEPI has not taken a sufficiently strategic approach to supporting and overseeing committees. While DEPI has closer relationships with some higher risk committees, its engagement with committees has mostly been reactive and opportunistic rather than strategic and systematic. Guidance material does not fully meet the needs of committees. It is missing in some key areas, and the material that does exist is not easily accessible. DEPI collects some useful information about committees, but it hasn't used this information to understand issues, prioritise its actions, or understand how committees are performing and where they are at risk. DEPI's ability to support and oversee committees has been limited by poorly defined roles and responsibilities in some key areas, and gaps in communication, with limited opportunities for sharing information about committees across the department. The audit made 5 recommendations to address these concerns. DEPI is currently implementing actions that will substantially address these recommendations. DEPI has not taken the steps needed to position committees to achieve their objectives and sustain the success over time. This is because some reserves that are managed by committees do not relate to DEPI's core functions, and DEPI does not strategically determine whether the delegated land manager should be a committee of management or another body. DEPI is not taking steps to ensure that committees have a sufficient volunteer base. DEPI's allocation of limited funds to committees is not fully informed. The funding arrangements for committees are of particular concern. The audit found that paying for key operational and maintenance costs is problematic for most committees. Risks from the limited funding include the deterioration of reserves, development of public safety risks, and the possibility of committees folding. The audit made 3 recommendations aimed at improving each of these areas. DEPI has commenced actions that will substantially address all of these recommendations. It is pleasing that DEPI has taken a constructive and proactive approach throughout the audit. Without committees of management, responsibility for managing around 1,500 Crown land reserves would fall back to the government. This would be at a significant economic cost and at the expense of valuable citizen and community involvement. It is essential that DEPI follow through with its committed actions so that committees are properly supported to carry out their functions. Other government bodies who delegate functions to volunteers should also consider the learnings from this audit. The Auditor-General will follow up in the future to assess the department's progress in improving its governance, oversight and support for committees of management. All our reports are available on our website. If you have any questions about this or other reports, or if you have anything else you would like to discuss with us, including ideas for future audit topics, please call us on 03 8601 7000 or contact us via our website.